County Fermanagh next for the view of someone who also suffered in the Troubles. He's with our reporter in the West, Julian Fowler. Julian.
Donna, I'm in Lisnaskea, and beside me is a memorial with more than 50 names on it. Soldiers, police officers, prison officers and civilians, many of whom were killed during the Troubles. And many of their families are represented by a local victims group which was set up by Alan Medill, who's with me now. Alan, there were complaints for many years from victims in this area that they were being ignored. Doesn't the £12,000 payment go some way to acknowledging the pain and suffering that they've suffered?
No, Julian, it doesn't. £12,000 insult is a better way of putting it, to people who have suffered as much as they have in this area will not help at all. It's recognition people want, not money.
Eames and Bradley obviously had to make some very difficult choices. Is there anything positive to come out of their report?
I heard nothing positive at the launch this morning, nothing that I would take back to our group and recommend to them.
So what do victims in this area want? How will they move forward with others, everyone who's suffered in the Troubles?
Recognition is a big thing that will help people move forward, and that's recognition in that there is different victims in every area. So people have suffered here at the hands of terrorists. Terrorists are not in the same league as the civilians, the police officers, the army officers who have been murdered in Russell area.
Now, you took part in the consultation when they visited Fermanagh. Do you feel that they've listened to you and others in this area at all in the 18 months that they've taken to write this report?
I haven't seen anything in the report thus far or heard anything that would suggest the Commission listened to anything they were told either at the open meeting in Enniskillen or in another consultation I had with them in Belfast.
And briefly going back to the money side of things, I mean, your group and many victims groups struggle for funding, and a lot of your time is spent trying to achieve funding. Do you think more could have been done to secure the long-term future of all victims groups?
A lot more could be done. Giving individuals £12,000 or families £12,000 may help some. An awful lot now don't need it, but groups like ours who are really working hard on the ground to move people forward can do with a lot more.
Thanks very much for joining us. From Lisnaskea, back now to the studio.
Julian Fowler reporting. Now, before we came on air, I spoke to the co-chairs of the consultative group on the past, Dennis Bradley and Lord Eames. I asked them if there had been broad support for a recognition payment from the families they had spoken to, or if they had misjudged the mood.
The most consistent voice that we heard in the 18 months of consultation from the victim sector was simply saying, look, some of us want justice, some of us want the truth, some of us want recognition. And the recognition, when you analysed it, was that in a sense there were many, many variations in what recognition meant. But so often it came out in terms like, nobody came to see me. Nobody came from society to register my loss. Nobody came in the days and months, the dreary days and months afterwards, to say, society hasn't forgotten you. Now, the figure itself is immaterial in the sense that this is not compensation. This is by no means anything like compensation. You couldn't put a price on a human life. It is simply to let society register that we know you've carried it.
Yet the First Minister, Peter Robinson, said putting forward this proposal has irreparably damaged your report, and he's one of the guys who would have to implement the plan.
Well, he is and he isn't, if you want to be completely fair
with
this. Well, no, it would be better with the involvement of our own politicians. It would be preferable with the involvement of our own politicians, but the report doesn't stand on our own politicians. The truth of the matter is you couldn't get agreement up the hill on any of these issues. That's the truth of the matter, and we have to face that. It's an unfortunate truth, but it's that. There wouldn't be agreement. So it may have to go to Westminster if we actually want to fully implement it. But let me just go back a little bit on that, the voices that have been registered in the media and so forth. They're very strong and loud voices, and our report supports those voices. Because not only did we get that about nobody came to us and saw us or recognised us or included us in many ways, we also got very strong voices, and you heard some of them today and you heard them in the media, that we don't want money. We want justice, we want somebody in court, or we want truth, we want to find out. But the voices that are the strongest in this society, and rightly so, we're not saying anything negative about this, the voices that are strong are about justice and truth. The voices are about compensation, and they don't look for compensation, not compensation. But the voices that want some form of recognition are the quieter voices. They are the voices that say, there was a double bereavement in my family. I lost somebody, and then society moved away from me. Sometimes people didn't even know that there was a coroner's court took place. Sometimes people didn't know that there was a court case took place. Sometimes people didn't know that there actually had been an investigation. So, look, you can't blame people for that. If there was chaos on our streets.
If some people are looking for the truth, you need the likes of the IRA to put their hands up, for everybody to put their hands up and claim responsibility. Yet the IRA didn't even speak to your commission.
Yeah, but they have now to decide. They have to make up their mind. The challenge is there. I think people like yourself have to put that challenge to the Republican movement in whatever form it now presents itself, because we're told that there's not the structures that were there. But you have to challenge them. Society has to now challenge them, and the UVF and the UDA, and say, if you want truth, it has to be.
But Lord Eames, do you not think we're not going to get MI5 and the security services putting their hands up? We've already heard millions of pounds being spent on public inquiries trying to get to the truth. Is that realistic?
But the truth of it is that the present judicial process, the present legal judicial process, is not answering the needs of people. It's not producing what people are looking for. And on the other side, you've got these enormous sums being paid for inquiries. That is all looking for something that people can't define, people can't grasp, people can't, in a sense, understand. What we're proposing is a system which will blend the need for reconciliation with a streamlining, in many ways, of the existing processes under different strands of a legacy commission. Now, it's a complicated thing to explain, but those who have advised us, those who have commented from some of the experts in the departments and in the parts of society that are involved in this, have said to us, this will bring order out of chaos. It will bring a restore of balance to some of these inquiries. People have said to us, for example, every time there's an inquiry, it seems to be targeted on the security forces. People are aware that there's an imbalance here. People who have looked at this with an expert eye are saying to us, within the plan for the Legacy Commission and all that goes with it that you're coming up with, there is obviously light at the end of the tunnel for producing a system that is fairer, it is more understandable, and it blends the need for justice and truth, and above all else, from our report, reconciliation.
Okay, Dennis Bradley and Lord Eames, thank you.